Hi, everyone. This is Sam Silverman, Managing Partner of EB5AN. Thank you for taking time to join us on today's webinar. Today, we're going to be discussing our Crestwind Rocky River $800,000 rural EB5 loan project. And we have the pleasure of having Anoop from India, one of the recent EB5 investors who joined the Crestwind Rocky River rural EB5 project. And we'll be asking some questions and talking about his experience. So, Anoop, thank you for joining us today. To start with, could you introduce yourself and share a little bit about your background, experience, and tie to the United States, and what led you to decide to pursue EB5?
Yeah, sure. Hey, Sam. Yeah, thanks for having me. So this is Anoop. Yeah, I'm from India. I've worked in southern part of India, Bangalore, for 8 to 10 years before I moved to US in late 2015. It was December of 2015 to be exact. So I came to US on L1B visa. It was an intra-company transfer. So I was working for the same company back in India, and I got transferred to the California San Jose office here. I came on L1B. My wife and dependents was on L2 visa. So things started okay. We had both of us had our work permits, and kid was I had an India-born kid, so he was 2 years old when we came here. So beginning, we were not fully aware of all the green card process and the backlog involved with it, all of it, right? Because when we came in, we thought it was just a 4 to 5 year wait time, because at that point in time, the priority dates were like 2011 or probably even 2009 or 2010, right? So we thought it's just wait for 4 to 5 years and we should get our green card and move on to citizenship and all those things, right? But slowly we started understanding the backlogs involved with EB2 process, and so it was a journey to get to here. But the moment we landed here till now, this immigration and maintaining the status, it has been like a big part of our life here. So as I said, I started with L1B, and then it took few years for me to even move to H1B. Because there is like a lottery process, right? So it took at least 3 years for me to get to H1B, and even to get my perm and I-140 approved. So from 2018, I moved on to my H1B plus EB2 priority category, right? So I'm on the waiting list of the EB2 priority from 2018. So as you would know, the things started moving up a bit during the COVID time, and dates were moving and progressing. So we were all pretty hopeful during that time, but things started retrogressing and dates moved back to like 2011 and 2012 after that. So so then we started thinking about other options on how to proceed and how to have a permanent residency option here in the US.
Perfect. Okay, so once you'd kind of decided, that EB5 was going to be the best path forward, for you and your family, what was your next step? What was your experience like researching for potential EB5 attorneys to help put together your application?
So I had explored even other options like EB1 for some time, but for the kind of profile I had, it didn't really fit in, or I felt I had to put in at least 1 to 3 years to prepare my profile for EB1. So that's when I started thinking about EB5 as such, actually. I had heard about EB5, but I always felt that it was me maintaining an investment and the job requirement and all those things. I've never really understood about these regional centers and how seamless it is during that point in time. And only late in 2024 is when I started investing time to understand the whole EB5 process and understood how regional centers work and how it provides a very seamless way to invest and track the process. I think late 2024 is when I started working out the EB5 projects, and I started reaching out to multiple regional centers, including yours. And then parallelly, I also started looking up immigration attorneys who work on the same EB-5. I'm from Bay Area, California, so I reached out to a few local immigration attorneys as well as who work from outside of California too.
Okay.
So that's how it started, yeah.
And specifically about the immigration attorneys, roughly how many different attorneys did you interview, and which attorney did you end up ultimately hiring, and why?
So I talked to at least 3 to 4 attorneys, mostly locally here in Bay Area, California. But what I found was most of them were like general immigration attorneys who were handling all different type of cases, like your H-1Bs or other company-sponsored ones or EB-1A kind of stuff. But I wanted someone who was specifically concentrating on EB-5, who can understand in and out of the EB-5 process, and was been doing this for a longer time, right? So that's how I ended up with Anita George. I think I got introduced from one of your testimonials or your website contents, and I reached out to Anita, and we had a conversation about her experience in the field, and we talked about my requirements, and it was an instant connect, and then I signed up pretty immediately after that with her.
Okay, perfect. All right, so once you had decided that Anita was going to be your immigration attorney for your filing, tell us a little bit about what happened after that. How long was that source of funds documentation process, assembling the story, back and forth, making sure everything was all, neatly organized with all the bank statements? What was that like, and how long did it take?
So with Anita, she was like very responsive, like any. So that was another thing which I was looking for in immigration attorneys, right? So like I went in with all the knowledge I could get from your website or other documentation which was available on EB5 groups, but I never had a first-hand experience about EB5 projects. So really, Anita was the first contact who could like personally have some history there and give some references and inside details about the whole process, right? So we spent a lot of time talking about the timelines because that was important to me. Because I've already spent 10 years in the waiting list, right? So I wanted to make sure that I'm not getting into another backlog as much as possible. So we talked about various project options and to see which path will make sure that there is a chance of backlog to the minimum. And then we looked at various projects. Even though I got Anita's contact from EB5, and we discussed about various other projects throughout the country to see which one fits best for me. I think those conversations probably took 1 or 2 weeks. With respect to the source of fund, that was probably straightforward for me because all the funds came from my US equity here, my company vested RSUs, the sale of company vested RSUs. So showing the proof of that was pretty straightforward because we had all the statements from the banking client. So we didn't have much of trouble collecting all the proofs for it. But Anita spent a lot of time going through all the transactions and adding up everything and providing a nice summary at the end of it. So yeah, she and her team did a pretty good job in summarizing everything. But I would say probably 3 to 4 weeks, we were done with everything, all the documentation required for source of fund. The only hiccups we had was about our birth certificates and marriage certificates. So some of the wordings in the certificates were not aligned with USCIS requirements. So we had to go back and get a corrected certificates. So other than that, the whole document collection process went smoothly, and once we finalized the project, I think we could file it within 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay, perfect. Okay. All right, so that's good to hear that went very smoothly. All right, so shifting gears a little bit and now moving away from the attorney and talking about the regional center. So I think you mentioned earlier you spoke with a number of different regional centers to kind of see what the different options were, what projects were available. What was that experience like talking to a few different regional centers, and how did your experience and interaction with EB5AN, how is that different from that of
Yeah,
some of the other regional centers?
sure. So I think most of the testimonials say the same thing, right? Like the amount of content and information available in your website, I think that was really good. I did like a lot of study, not just about the project, about the whole EB5 visa categories and the whole process timeline. I think your website provided a lot of information, which really helped like educate myself on it. But compared to that, like other regional centers just had maybe few lines about the project and not much information about the whole process and timelines and everything. So that way, to start off the website content and details and specifics about projects and construction updates about projects. So that was really helpful. I never saw those kind of monthly updates or quarterly uh, project status reports directly available to everyone on the website, right? So that was a clear difference between EB5AN and other groups. Um, and the other difference I found was the range of projects available itself, right? So some of the other regional centers which I talked to had probably one project or two projects, um, and which would start probably 2 months out or 3 months out, pretty early stage. So they never had multiple projects ongoing at the same time, like in the various segments of rural versus urban. So I think EB5AN was the only group which I found had like a lot of options at the same time. Uh, and we could just choose and pick one based upon our liking. So that's one difference which I found.
Got it. Okay. So once you kind of, done a little research on the regional centers and thought that EB5AN was going to be a good partner as a company to work with, what about the Rocky River project in particular was important for you when you were looking for projects? What was kind of, the top two or three most important things for any project, that was one that was going to, be a focus for you?
Sure. So, as I mentioned, I my top criteria was to see to get into a path which had like the largest amount of visa set aside, right? So I from the get-go I wanted to go with rural, nothing else. So I was sure about that. I wanted a rural project, and then it was about the viability of the project, and then getting the money back versus. At what time, the job requirement kind of stuff, right? So when I was looking at EB5 so this was late 2024. I think we had two or three projects which were fitting the same bill, like rural projects. Um, but I think I talked about Twin Lakes and Rocky River at the same time with your firm, and the timing. What mattered more for me was when I was considering Twin Lakes, I felt I was pretty late with respect to the project timeline. And if I had invested there, maybe it'll take a couple of years to really start using my funds. And EB5N was pretty open about it. I was talking to Jordan from your team, and he had mentioned it's already oversubscribed, and it was nice of him to explain how the smooth transfer of the fund works and when would your position come in the front for the job requirements. So it was clear to me that will take at least 1 to 2 years before I can claim any of the jobs created for the project. So that way, Rocky River looked really attractive to me because it was pretty early stage.
Yep.
And yeah, so when I signed on, I might have been the very first 10 or even the very first five investors for the Rocky River. So the stage of the project was really interesting. It came with its own risks too, because when when I started or when I transferred the money, the land deal itself was not closed. So we waited till the land closure in November 2024, and that's when after that only I submitted our application 526 application. So yeah, these two were the requirements. I wanted something rural, and I wanted something where I was sure that my funds will be utilized immediately and I can claim the jobs. And I don't want to wait for another 2 years, and at the end of the 2 years my funds will be moved. I understand the AP and EAD and all those things can come early, but I wanted the most surety as possible. I didn't want to get into like another wait time of 2 years and 3 years and things changing at the end of it.
Perfect. Let's spend 1 minute and just talk about the business plan itself. So in the Rocky River project, obviously Coulter is building single family homes targeting retirees 55 and up. How does that compare to some of the other rural projects that you saw, which were like hotels or resorts or, energy? What about that business model kind of gave you a little more confidence versus some of the other rural projects that you saw?
Yeah, so I looked at some of the resorts and hotels and all those things, right? So those business models, at least I'm not privy to, I don't understand all the details, but housing market is something which at least I have some experience investing here in US or back in India. So I know how at least the project kickstart and the timelines for it. So that's the only project which I can at least understand the business proposal or the business plans to begin with. So I always had my likings toward the single family homes and these housing projects compared to like a resort or a ski resort or a hotel kind of stuff, right? So I had my preference there. And then coming to Coulter, I think within your projects or even outside, they had their good track record with respect to completing the projects and especially EB5 projects, right? So when I looked at, they had at least 6 to 10 completed projects. So that was a big plus, especially EB5 projects itself. And then I went and looked at all their existing projects and previously completed projects from the Coulter and their leadership team, and it all looked very promising to me compared to other projects where like when some of the projects which I looked even outside of EB5AN, they have been going on under construction for a few years, and when they run out of funds, they go to EB5 route to raise additional funds, kind of stuff, right? So with Coulter, that never happened. It was always very financially well positioned. Loans. So I felt Coulter was financially more stable too, and I felt Coulter will be able to successfully finish it and hand over the loan amount under the prescribed time frame. So yeah, I think the Coulter as a builder and single family homes um, from a project perspective, I think those two kind of helped me to decide on Rocky River. And obviously the Twin Lakes, like the success of the Twin Lakes was really there. Like all the data were there from the Twin Lakes, so that also helped me because it was pretty comparable to Twin Lakes. Right, everything looked almost similar to Twin Lakes, and I talked to few who had invested in Twin Lakes. So yeah, it looked straightforward me to jump into the Rocky River at that point in time.
And I think you mentioned this very briefly earlier, but how did the rural TEA qualification, how did that impact your decision to go with the Rocky project versus, the One Tampa project or some of the other urban projects that we also had available?
So as I said, uh, so even at the time of my application, everything was current, but like all the different categories in the set aside was current. But I was looking at the numbers published by various groups on this EB5 data. especially this FOIA request and all those things. And everything kind of mentioned this urban numbers were twice, like the pending requests, the pending applications for the urbans were like twice compared to the rural one, even though rural had 20% set aside. And everyone was expecting urban to get into kind of a backlog situation pretty soon. Within a year or so, they were expecting urban to get into a backlog situation, especially for India and China. So uh, that was one of the decisions. That was one thing which kind of pushed me to say, okay, only rural and nothing else, because that had like 20% set aside. I think that kind of alone, driven the decision to rural projects.
Okay, perfect. All right, so once you kind of finished the research on the project side and decided that the Rocky River rural project was going to be the best option for you, what was it like after that point in terms of working with the EB5AN team to complete the subscription agreement, transfer the funds, get the escrow letter, get everything filed? You know, how was that experience? And yeah, what would you say in terms of feedback? You know, how we could improve that?
Yeah, sure. So I worked exclusively with Jordan on this, and we had multiple meetings set up to go over not just Rocky River. I think we talked about Rocky River, Twin Lakes, and projects too. I think Tamarack. Not sure. So yeah, we set up multiple sessions and we talked over all these different projects and at what stage of each project it is. So those things happened before we decided on the Rocky River, and once we decided Rocky River is going to be the project. Yeah, I think he set up with his team, and the subscription packets and everything was made available to me, and I could go over it and I could review it with the attorney. Everything went pretty smooth from that point in time. The subscription packet signing and all happened probably within a few days, and everything was made available to attorney also same day or maybe the next day. And the escrow account set up, fund transfers. Even from escrow company, I had a direct contact, and I could track all the money transfers and everything, and I got receipts within a few days. So I think the moment I decided to invest the money to finishing all the subscription package and transfer of money probably happened within 1 week to 10 days. It was pretty fast and it was pretty smooth. Yeah, I don't think I have any kind of concerns or any issues there. Only thing I would say is probably I think when I signed on, we were given an option, or we were told that there will be some kind of a project tracking stuff, probably something like Juniper Square or something, where we could owners or investors could track the construction updates and progress and the fund transfers and all those things, right? So I'm looking forward to it. I know your team is working on it. So once you have that, I think probably I'm hoping you'll have a seamless experience of seeing where how the fund is looking and how much has been transferred and the jobs created and all those things. Right now we are getting this quarterly report. That is also good, but I hope things will be better with this investor portal which you had promised.
Yep, exactly. Yep, we've just implemented that.
Yeah.
All right, so looking back now, having gone through the whole process a few months back, what general advice would you have for other similar Indian investors already in the U.S. considering EB5? What just I guess first in terms of just is EB5 worth it? Like what's the benefit versus the cost? Like how did you kind of approach that mental decision of, okay, this is going to cost, opportunity cost of investing the funds. Why did you decide to do it? And then second, once you do decide to do it, how would you kind of approach picking a project?
Sure. Yeah, so I've heard it from someone else talking about EB5 assets. So what I feel it is, the number of opportunities available for Indians under this H1B EB2, like to move forward other than EB2 is very limited. And I think EB5 presents, it's a gate open, which is, it's a gate open now. I don't know how long it will be open, because the current proposal itself will sunset in 2026 or end of 2027, right? So we don't know what's going to change after that. But for now, I understand that it's a Congress approved thing, the whole EB5 stuff. So even with all the news coming in, I believe it is still supported and protected at least till the end of 2026 or 27. So I felt it's a safe option to go with, given all the current situations. If you have the means to invest this 800K, I wouldn't I wouldn't still recommend putting everything on your savings to here. I had the means with respect to some company equity and all those things. Like I haven't explored options of taking loan and all those things. So that would be my. I don't know. Different people do it differently, but I never explored the options of loan and all those things. I had the options of liquidating some of my equity options, and so that way I felt a little more safe. I'm not jeopardizing all of the other savings which I've built up to now. So I felt it's a completely safe option, given that it's protected by Congress, and it's a limited window. I felt, given that the demand is picking up and potential chance of backlog, especially for people from India and China. So that's why I wanted to jump in as soon as possible. Right. So that's why that's one reason why I decided to go with the EB5 route. And given all that, the advice for future investors would be: you still need to understand all the timelines involved, right? So you might get your AP/AD in a few months, but it's not a few months thing alone to get to the completion point, right? So there are multiple steps involved: AP/AD, then your 526 approval, your temporary green card, and to your final green card and conditional green card. So it's a multi-year wait even for this, but that's the best option we have. That's how I see it. It's not. Things could be better. Things could move faster, but that's the best option given the condition of EB2 and EB3 right now. And if you're not able to move to EB1, I think this may be the only option right now available. That's how I see it.
Perfect. Okay. And again, looking back, would you recommend your attorney, Anita, and EB5AN to other foreign investors, Indian and non-Indian, considering EB5, and why, and yeah, how would you explain that?
Definitely. My experience, so first of all, with attorney, so my experience with Anita has been really good. Even after we filed everything, I've been in constant contact with her. Like we had a couple of notices coming pretty soon from UCS for which we had to respond. Some of the forms were falsely rejected in the first attempt, and she had to correct. And it was not a mistake from our side. It was an issue from UCS, and all the responses were handled pretty promptly by Anita. And even now, any request I have, she always comes back pretty soon, like within the same day or next day. So the response from her and continued support has been really good till now. So I would always recommend Anita for any investors. Yeah, especially her during the application process, her effort in documenting everything, showing the source of fund. For me, at least, it was not that complex. I hadn't have to move anything from India or outside of US. So, but I heard other testimonials about people moving funds from India, and she doing a great job, like recording everything. So I would trust that. So I would any day recommend her. And with respect to EB5AN itself, the support from your group, especially Jordan, has been really wonderful. And the rest of the team too. Like any questions I had about any project updates or construction updates. As I said, when I signed on, The land deal itself was not closed. The 956 was not approved. So I jumped in pretty early, right? So uh, getting till the 956 approval, it was a little, yeah. I had to wait at least a month after I put in the money to see the 956 approval. So during all that time, they were always there to help out with general timeline of all these things and how much time it takes. And yeah, they were really there always to help out with any clarification on the process or the timelines. So yeah, I would anyways any day recommend yeah, your group and your team, especially Jordan.
Perfect. All right, awesome. Thank you very much, Anoop. We really appreciate you taking some time to share your experience, and I'm sure many of our future clients who watch this will really be thankful that they got to hear your thoughts. Yeah, thank you again.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Thanks for the time.